Imagine waking up to discover that the president of your country has quietly met with some of the most controversial figures behind a movement that has dominated national headlines. Not opposition leaders, not business executives, but individuals linked in the public mind to anti-immigration protests that have left communities divided and the nation on edge. Now imagine that one of the movement's most recognizable leaders says she wasn't even invited. Why did the meeting happen? What was discussed behind closed doors? And why was one key figure apparently left out? These are the questions now fueling political debate across South Africa. Because whether you support the government's approach or strongly oppose it, this meeting has become far bigger than a private conversation. It has raised difficult questions about leadership, public trust, immigration policy, and how governments respond during moments of national tension. Stay with us, because as this story unfolds, the unanswered questions become even more significant. If you want in-depth coverage of the biggest political and national stories shaping South Africa, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest updates. South Africa has spent years wrestling with one of its most difficult and emotional issues: immigration. High unemployment, rising crime concerns, pressure on public services, and frustration over undocumented migration have created an environment where emotions often run high. While many South Africans believe stronger border controls are necessary, many others warn that anger directed at foreign nationals can lead to discrimination, violence, and violations of human rights. The government has repeatedly stated that it is working to strengthen border security, improve immigration enforcement, and process undocumented migration through legal channels. At the same time, authorities have consistently condemned attacks against foreign nationals and have urged citizens not to take the law into their own hands. Against this backdrop, several activists have emerged as outspoken voices demanding tougher action against illegal immigration. Among the names receiving widespread public attention are Ngizwe Mchunu, Phakel'umthakathi, and Jacinta Ngobese Zuma. Each has attracted supporters who argue that government has failed to deal effectively with immigration. At the same time, critics accuse some activists of encouraging rhetoric that increases tensions toward foreign nationals. As nationwide demonstrations were being planned, concerns grew that protests could escalate into unrest. Businesses prepared for possible disruptions. Security agencies increased monitoring. Government officials urged citizens to remain peaceful and obey the law. But here's where things became especially interesting. Reports began circulating that President Cyril Ramaphosa had held a private meeting with Ngizwe Mchunu and Phakel'umthakathi. According to accounts shared publicly, the president wanted to hear their concerns directly and encouraged them to stop the planned marches, while explaining that government was already working to strengthen border management and improve immigration systems. If accurate, this was no ordinary political meeting. It represented direct engagement between the country's highest elected official and activists, whose campaigns have generated intense national debate. Yet almost immediately another development shifted attention. Jacinta Ngobese Zuma publicly stated that she had not been informed about the meeting. She said she did not know what had been discussed between the president and the two men. That statement immediately sparked questions across social media and political circles. Why was she not included? Was the meeting intended only for certain individuals? Did government deliberately choose specific representatives? Or was this simply a private engagement that did not involve every activist connected to the broader movement? None of those questions have received definitive public answers. What happened next raised even more questions. Although Jesinta remained one of the leading public faces associated with the nationwide march campaign, Phakel'umthakathi reportedly announced that he would not organize his own separate march. Instead, he said he supported Jacinta's campaign. For some observers, this appeared to reduce confusion among supporters by avoiding competing demonstrations. Others interpreted it differently. Some questioned whether stepping away from organizing an independent march could also reduce direct responsibility should violence or unrest occur during demonstrations organized by others. There is currently no evidence that this decision was made for that reason. However, the timing has certainly become part of the broader public discussion surrounding the movement. As preparations continued for demonstrations, law enforcement agencies remained on alert. Government officials repeatedly emphasized that peaceful protest is protected under South Africa's constitution, but criminal acts, intimidation, violence, or attacks against individuals would not be tolerated. Security planning intensified. Businesses monitored developments carefully. Communities waited anxiously to see whether demonstrations would remain peaceful. But this is the part few people are talking about. The president's decision to engage directly with controversial activists has divided public opinion almost as much as immigration itself. Supporters argue that leadership sometimes requires speaking with people you disagree with. They believe that dialogue can prevent violence, reduce tensions, and create opportunities for peaceful solutions before situations spiral out of control. History provides many examples where governments have chosen negotiation over confrontation, particularly during periods of social unrest. Critics, however, see the situation very differently. Some argue that meeting controversial figures risks giving them greater political legitimacy. Others believe government should instead enforce existing laws without appearing to negotiate with groups accused by critics of fueling division. These competing perspectives illustrate the difficult balance any democratic government faces. That debate is now unfolding across South Africa. Meanwhile, social media has become one of the biggest battlegrounds. Supporters of the activists argue that ordinary citizens have grown frustrated after years of unemployment, crime, and concerns over immigration. Critics strongly reject that distinction. Human rights organizations have repeatedly warned that language surrounding immigration must remain responsible because inflammatory statements can increase fear and social division. President Ramaphosa's administration has faced sustained pressure over border management for years. Opposition parties have criticized government for weaknesses in immigration enforcement. At the same time, government has pointed to efforts aimed at improving border security and strengthening law enforcement operations. The reported meeting therefore carries political significance beyond the immediate protests. If dialogue reduces tensions, supporters may argue that engagement prevented unrest. If tensions continue, critics may question whether the meeting achieved anything at all. Economically, the issue also matters. South Africa continues working to attract investment and restore business confidence. Whenever protests or fears of unrest dominate headlines, investors take notice. What happened next continued to fuel debate online. Some praised the president for opening communication. Others accused him of sending mixed signals. Traditional media focused heavily on the reported exclusion of Jacinta from the meeting. At this stage, many details remain unknown. What has been reported is that President Ramaphosa met Ngizwe Mchunu and Phakel'umthakathi to hear grievances and urged them to stop marches. It has also been stated that Jacinta Ngobese Zuma was unaware of the meeting. But here is the question that remains. Will dialogue reduce tensions or deepen divisions? For now, many answers remain unknown. What is clear is that immigration has become one of South Africa's most sensitive political issues. That is why every development now receives intense public scrutiny. As South Africans continue debating this, one thing remains certain. The conversation is far from over. What do you think about this meeting? Share your thoughts below.